Good Erev Shabbos, friends. I have a schos every week to translate from Lashon HaKodesh to English. Divrei Torah from my beloved Rebbe, Kalover Rebbe, shlita. I should have before Shleim, Moshe ben Rezel. And this week's Divrei Torah, it gave me a special assurance, a special inspiration for tshuva, for repentance, and I really like to share with everybody and some insights that I had on it. So I won't exactly be teaching what the Rebbe taught. You can find it. He sends out in the emails. But instead, I'll tell you what spoke to my heart about this. And it was very painful and I hope it's something that'll stick with me, because it's something I've been struggling with for a long time, and I was never even aware of it. And I'm hoping that this should be a segula for, in a rational, practical way, to fix this problem. A lot of problems that I've had in my life, and it seems like it could work. I hope so. I mean, it's all in Shemayim, and we have to work, and we have to think. Maybe this could be it. So, the Rebbe starts off explaining that if you just find out about the world from listening to the news, reading newspapers, maybe watching the news, you're going to come up with you're going to get depressed, first of all. The news, that's what my mother, she should be well, she always says, the news is depressing. The news is depressing. But, and we always hear how, in Hasidic literature, how dangerous depression is. That, I think it was the Karliner who said, a man to go to the mikveh is not a mitzvah, but it does more than any mitzvah. And depression, in the positive sense, and depression is not a sin in and of itself, but it does more damage than any sin in a negative sense. The news is depressing. Why? Because we hear about theft and murder and violence and political strife and just, all kinds of horrible stories, people, committing all kinds of sins, and we hear more and more in the news. These are the types of things people, they listen to, they're interested in hearing about. What did this one do? What did that one do? Sometimes we're talking about famous people, sometimes we're talking about simple people, and it's depressing. But the Rebbe points out, the Rebbe Shlita, Kalover Rebbe Shlita points out that is even more damaging in ways that we don't recognize. But I mean, this opened my eyes, because this is like a way I've been thinking for so long, and I realize how damning it is, really. And how damaging Lashon Hara is. I'll be honest. All the years, Chavetz Chaim Heritage Foundation comes along, and they're like, oh, you have to learn the Chavetz Chaim and the Shmiras HaLashon, and I was like, and I tried, and it's such a big segula, Manchester Rosh Hashiva, and I was just like, I felt uncomfortable. And I have one Rav who says, really, a lot of these things might be exaggerated. You open up the Rambam, and how much is there Shmiras HaLashon? Why do we make a whole big thing about this? And maybe it's not so good that we talk so much about Shmiras HaLashon and this and that. But I just got it now. It's like a growth experience, like what they call an aha moment, right? When I learned this and translated what the Rebbe wrote, why is Lashon Hara so dangerous? Why is it so damaging? Why does it kill not only the one that you're talking about, but the one who hears it? Chazal say. Why is it, like Chazal say, that the first base of Mikdash was tomorrow Shavuos or Tammuz? The first base of Mikdash was destroyed because of Gilarayis of Adazar Shvichas Damim. The second base of Mikdash because of Sinas Chinim and Gilarayis. So let's translate that. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians, by Nebuchadnezzar, because of murder and idolatry and adultery. And the second temple was destroyed by Titus, by the Romans, because of baseless hatred and slander and speaking negatively about other people, even if it's true. And so the Talmud says we see that therefore speaking slander and speaking negatively is as bad as adultery, murder, and idolatry. And we're like, whoa, what? You know? And there's all kinds of things that are said about it, both halachically and agadata. And we got to ask ourselves, so what is this? What's this all about? So, you know, the answer in the end, right, is we're going to explain it here. I think the Kalover Rebbe explained it in a way that just I never thought of it this way, and I realized this has been poisoning my whole life for many years, and it just like opened my eyes, and it's fascinating. I remember when I was a kid, I asked Rabbi Victor Miller. It's on a tape called "The Diamonds in the Road," I believe is the name of the tape. And I must have been like 15 years old, and I asked Rabbi Victor Miller. You know, he mentioned how, you know, you should say, and this is connected to what we're talking about. You should say, "I love you, Hashem." It's beficha v'vavcha lasoso. It's in your mouth and your heart to do it. Meaning, what you speak about becomes what you think, and it becomes your psyche. It becomes your behavior after that. It becomes who you are, what you do, how you speak. But before I get to the end of what he's saying, let's start at the beginning. Then he said, so we thereby, when we say, "I love you, God, I love you, Hashem," you're fulfilling the mitzvah. You have to, as Hashem Elokecha. You should love the Lord your God, right? So then we have a mitzvah. You have to l'reacha kamocha. That's in this week's parsha, right? The Abdurov said. You see in this week's parsha, Balak. V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha. Balak, right? Divrei Balak, it says. The words of Balak or Balak. Sometimes there's not the pintala there in the base. It's a vase. But then the guy said, "But wait a second. V'yahavta is with a vav, not a vase. The lamed you got right for l'reacha, but kamochas with a kuf, not a kuf." He said, if you want to love, you can't be so careful. You got to be more patient, and you got to be more tolerant if you want to have to really love people. And it's all connected. It's not just a cute thing to say. And so I asked, and so he was talking about, you see a frum Jew, you should say to yourself and mouth the words, "I love that Jew." Fulfill the mitzvah, you have to wear. So then and he said, "You see a frum Jew with a yarmulke?" So then I said, "What if he's not frum?" So he said, "The mitzvah of Yahavta L'Reacha Kamocha al pi halacha is kamocha b'torah mitzvahs. We're only obligated to love pious Jews who are in fellowship with God through His commandments. But that doesn't mean we have to hate non-religious Jews or hate non-Jews. It just means we don't have the special mitzvah of loving, just like we have an extra mitzvah to love a convert. To love the stranger means the convert. The ger means the convert. Doesn't mean illegal immigrants. Means legal immigrants. But the meaning you have to love him because he's a fellow Jew, and you have to love him because he's a convert. It's two mitzvahs. But other people, we don't have a mitzvah to love. It doesn't mean we have to hate them, unless they're enemies of God. And even then, we can try to be Donald Kapschus. They don't know any better, right? So then, but with that being said, and I asked, is it lashon hara? And he said, even if it's not, he said, no, it's not lashon hara to speak against non-religious Jew. But he told me, don't be so negative. Look at the positive things in the world. He told the story from the Chavos Levavos, the two Hasidim. They could have been Hasidim was Olam. Some scholars, some secular scholars especially, believe that when the Chavos Levavos says Hasidim, he's talking about Sufi Muslims. But whatever it is, whether they were pious Jews, pious Gentiles, two pious men were walking. They saw a carcass of a donkey. This week we have Bilam the donkey. And one said, look how disgusting the carcass is. And the other one said, look how clean and white his teeth are. And you got to look at the positive things in the world, and we'll be happier that way. But it's connected to what the Rebbe is saying here. But I think, why is it specifically a big sin to say lashon hara about religious Jews more than anybody else? And I think it's connected to this. Because when we constantly hear about negative things, we think, we heard this, when there was the scandals with Bill Clinton. How do you tell a teenager that what they're doing is wrong if the president is doing it, right? That type of thing. So, the same thing, you hear stories, Yid mit born pious mit weiße Socken mit der Stammel Tite Zoyne Zoy. A Jew who's otherwise not only dresses pious, I don't think he's a phony. He might really be pious. He made a mistake, or he has a problem. But we don't need to talk about it. That's what I'm saying. We don't need to talk about these things, because if we sit around talking and saying, these Hasidim, they do this and that, and then it gets in our mind, then it's really okay. Or even if it's not okay, but everybody does it. I don't have to be a framaka. I don't have to be better than everybody else. Even people, they talk about themselves and say what kinds of bad things they've done when they were younger. And you think about that. I remember when I was a kid, and the rabbi talking about, when he was a teenager, he did this and that. And I was like, this guy, he turned out okay. You know what I'm saying? We don't need to talk about these things, because when we do, it has such a bad influence on our lives. When we say these words in our mouths, it gets in our hearts and our behavior, and it's so damaging. It's frightening. It's sickening and saddening how damaging these things are to our lives. And on the other hand, we have to talk about good things, positive things. And the Rebbe points out, he said, when the secular scholars say, when little kids, play violent video games and this and that, it makes them violent and so forth. Meaning these things have effects on us. And if we talk about good things, so that's why by the Hasidim, as in many other cultures, there is this devotion of telling stories of tzaddikim, to tell stories of our saints. Why? Because it when we talk about these good things, or even if it's not about big tzaddikim, but just regular Jews who do good things, and we talk about that, so then, it like changes our whole life, It makes everything positive and good. It's in our mouth and in our heart, which Rabbi Miller always said means our mind, to do it. La so. So that's why we have to tell our kids and our students good stories. This is such a good devotion that we have to tell stories, and all kinds of things like this. So, and that's why Lashon Hara is so damaging, and that's why Lashon Tov is so important in telling good stories and sharing good stories and being positive and looking for the positive things in everything. Like Rabbi Nachman says, "V'zamer balokai ba'odi." Even someone who's really bad, you find something good about them. It makes the whole thing good. So, thank you for watching. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. Comment. Oh, and we didn't attach this to Bilam and Balak. I'll pause this video now, and then we'll talk about it. I'll be right back. So what else can we say? How can we connect this to Bilam? So Ne'uma Gaver Sasuma Ayin, the man with the closed eye, speaks. And it says in Pirkei Avos, it says, Talmidav Shel Bilam Arasha. It says they are, one of their midas is Ayin Ra. So he said that the taich is that the eye, if you look at things in a negative way, Kedushas Levi says, then it says b'soif doifel gehinnom yardim lever shachas. Why? If you look at everything negatively, all you're going to see is a negative world. If you look at things positively, you're going to see what a beautiful world it is. So that's the difference between the Talmidim of Avram Avinu and the Talmidim of Bilam Arasha. They look at things, Bilam looked at everything negatively. He couldn't see anything positive in the world. That's why he's always cursing everybody. And he would drag people to do bad things. And they do one bad thing, do more bad thimthings. He tried to get them that, that the Nasi B'Yisrael should do such a big Aveira like Zimri. And they'll say, well, if the Nasi did it, so we could all do it, right? That type of attitude. And that's how he was trying to bring Klala on the Klal Yisrael. And so that's why we have to be so careful not to speak negatively. Even if something is true. It's Lashon Hara even if it's true. Why? And Lashon Hara kills not only the one that you speak about, but the one who hears it and the one who accepts it. And the one who speaks it. Because it's in our mouth and our heart to do it. It affects us. It changes us. But if we look at things positively, like the Talmid of Shel Avram Avinu, with an Ayin Tova, we look at things with a good eye. So then everything is good. Everything is awesome. Everything is great when you're part of the team. Right? When we look at how awesome everything is, and it makes us happy, it changes our world. We put everything into a positive light. And then we're happy people. Happy, smiling people, right? So let's tell stories, good stories of good people, of tzaddikim, and even of regular people who do good things. That's even more powerful in a way, because then you think, oh, that's the big tzaddikim. But regular people like us, so tell stories from regular people. I heard a story, Melech Biederman, soll gesund sein. He said that there was a Yid who they called him. In Ramot, he said there was a Rav who was coming, and it was Erev Shabbos, close to Shabbos, and they didn't have anyone to make Shabbos. They didn't have anywhere for him to stay, and so they didn't know what to do. And then, they called this Yid. He just moved into a new apartment. And he said, you know what, I'll do it. Even though it's going to ruin his apartment, everyone's going to come and want to see this Rebbe or whatever it was. So they're all going to come into his apartment. It's going to ruin his brand new apartment. But it is what it is. It'll be a korban. What happened? He said this Yid, he was married for 10 years, never had children. This was 9 months ago. He just had a baby girl, Mazel Tov. When simple Jews do something out of the ordinary, it has an effect. It makes the whole world better. It makes our lives better. Let's all tell good stories from good people. And v'amech kulam tzadikim. All Jews are tzadikim. And let's have a good Shabbos. Thank you for listening. God bless. Please like, share, and subscribe. We'll talk to you later. Ja. Geheerd. Half of dikke terror van Kalover Rebbe shlita van Williamsburg. Hij zoekt van Billem. Het is niet graag geleden. Billem had gehad Iron Ruhe. Talmid of Billem Iron Ruhe live Ruhe. So was meint Iron Ruhe? Du kriegst Slaves zoekt. Kijkt auf jede Sache schlecht. Was meint? Was ist ein Mensch? Was ist Lashon Hara so schlecht? Weil man hört scheine jeder getan eine schlechte Sache. Man kann meinen, ich bin auch ein scheine jeder. Ich will nicht seine vermaken. Ich will nicht sein besser wie jeder eine. So ich kann auch eine solche Sache. So das ist was es meint. Es Lashon Hara hagelt sich dem was ha'oimrei mekabeloi kedome. Weil man hört und verwusst Lashon Hara ist auch für Frimmer jeden, nicht auf jeder eine. Sucht nicht alle Sachen wie gesehen ist. Man hört ein ehrlicher Jid tit etwas, ein scheiner, frimmer Jid tit etwas, man hört was frimm meint viel Risches und weinige Mitzvahs, solche Sachen, man meint, man kann tun was man will, weil ein frimmer Jid tit auch gesagt. So they said a horsefly. A horsefly can bassen sei, das ist schon teut.
Ja, kann ich schon ausreißen. Ich bin halt einmal Pura.
Philip was a state in Mishnah, Chugav Tomit Chai, weil ein Kind kann spielen mit so.
Ja. Ich kann aber geht Schabes.
Shabbos.
Was von allem gitten?
Hashem.
Schabes, was macht dann auch?
Ich komme jetzt von der Arbeit.
Wow. Ja, Kinder von den Kindern.
Ja.
Baruch
Hashem,
ja,
ja,
Chau. Du schon so gemacht.
Oh ja.
Du hast Kohl, kann ich zurückgehen. Die gehst laufen, ne?
Ja, ich gehe zu Free Minion.
Was ist der für mich bei Hoffmann?
Oder beim Hoffmann oder beim
Buttons?
ja, Karpaten.
Die gehst auch mit der Buttons, ja, vertrug sie an den Platz.
Es hat nicht keinen Fund. Es ist nicht kein Twillen von Schlimmen mit ihm. Jede...
Ja, meine Beste.
Ja. Aber da... morgen gehe ich machen einen Appeal für das Mädchen beim Carpathian. So, der Ruf hat mich kein Koich zu kommen. Shabbos. Darfst du ride? Oh, I'm still recording? I thought I stopped this.